Good day everybody, my name is Maysa and welcome to this video. In this opportunity, I would like to take you for a virtual trip to one of the best countries in the world in handling COVID-19 pandemic, New Zealand. Aside from that, I will also be inviting one of my good friends from Wellington, Nina, a spatial science student, to share her opinion and experience behind the successful story of New Zealand battling out COVID-19. From July 2020, New Zealand has quote-unquote become COVID-19 free as they undergo 24 days without any new cases, according to the BBC News. But how is it now? Well, let's invite my friend Nina to this video.
We're very, very lucky. It's pretty much non-existent. Obviously, there are still people in managed isolation that are either getting over COVID or just checking that they don't have it when they cross the borders from another country. But for most people, for the rest of us, there's no limits on size of people that can gather in a place. You can be as many people as you want in any area at any time. The only time you have to wear a mask is on a flight.
Wow, to see New Zealand has regained back its pre-COVID-19 life becomes a huge question on how the government can effectively implement its policies. Well, at the beginning, New Zealand followed its existing pre-pandemic plan, which was designed to fight influenza. However, it performs poorly as new cases of COVID-19 arises in the beginning of 2020.
Therefore, the government took a turn and took suppression strategies which include self-isolation and a lockdown policy. When the WHO first announced the first outbreak back in Wuhan, the New Zealand government immediately carried out self-isolation and the lockdown policy. Hence, New Zealand is known for having one of the most strict lockdown policies.
Nevertheless, the success of New Zealand owes more than its anticipatory policy making, where the government conducted an advanced planning prior to this unprecedented time. COVID-19 crisis in New Zealand was largely managed by trained experts or technocrats as its policy designers, mostly from New Zealand or even overseas, which prevents from outside interference in the policy process. But mostly, it is true to say that the success of New Zealand relies on its implementation through a strong leadership carried out by its Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, as well as the commitment of bureaucrats. According to Gunn 1987, there are several important characteristics in order to carry out an effective top-down policy implementation. I will take two from them. First,
there should be a full obedience to the orders through perfect communication and coordination, making a high public compliance.
Second,
it is true to say that top-down policy should be unambiguous, which means that detailed task stages must be performed.
Now let's invite Nina again into this video to tell us the state of public compliance through communication and coordination, as well as detailed task stages.
The public compliance is so good. People, when we went into lockdown, they were a bit some people were a bit iffy about it, but the majority easily was all for it. Our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, favourite quote or favourite statement is a team of 5 million. And but in New Zealand our population is only 5-point-something million, so again it's a lot easier for us to prevent these things and kind of eliminate them when they are in the community, when COVID is in the community. But yeah, team of 5 million I think describes it pretty well. Most people were happy to do it. Obviously there are always going to be a few that do sneak out to see friends, but that was not a big enough number for the lockdown to not work. So I think that the public compliance has been really, really good in New Zealand.
Well, to summarize all, we can say that the successful implementation of New Zealand top-down policy is caused by, first,
good communication and coordination. Jacinda Ardern's strong crisis leadership, which upholds transparency, openness, high commitment of authorities, create the sense of government stress, making a solid public compliance. By framing the COVID-19 pandemic as our response instead of just the government response through constant repetition of the statement, 5.5 million team thus creates full obedience to the order. This can be considered then a good characteristic of top-down policy implementation.
Second,
detailed task stages that were being performed. The government of New Zealand devised a simple implementation structure by creating 4 levels of lockdown stages where policy implementers can effectively be monitored. This also keeps policy unambiguous whilst promoting comprehensive understanding and approval of policy objectives.
Well, I hope that the story behind New Zealand's success can be a lesson for everyone, especially governance and public sector administration. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you next time.